I think because he realized how important it was and how important family was, and he wanted to do all of that right. His mom and dad and just all the things they went through, I think he realized that if he continued with this path he was on mentally, he wasn't going to be much different.
Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s wife, Amy Reimann, is revealing a deeply personal side of the NASCAR icon that fans rarely saw in public. Known for appearing calm and confident, Dale privately struggled with emotional pressure, communication issues, and the weight of fame. Amy opened up about the therapy sessions that helped save their marriage, the stress that affected their family life, and the terrifying plane crash that changed everything. As these hidden struggles come to light, longtime NASCAR fans are discovering a far more vulnerable and human side of Dale Earnhardt Jr. than they ever expected. The truth, Amy finally shared. For years, millions of NASCAR fans believed they already knew Dale Earnhardt Jr. They saw the confident smile, the famous last name, the roaring race cars, and the calm personality that made him one of the most loved drivers in America. To the public, he looked like a man who had everything under control. He carried the Earnhardt legacy on his shoulders, survived the pressure of fame, and became the face of an entire sport. But behind the cameras, behind the cheering crowds, and far away from the flashing lights of race day, another story was quietly unfolding inside his home. And the person who slowly revealed that hidden story was not a reporter, a rival driver, or a shocking tabloid scandal. It was his own wife, Amy Reimann. What made Amy's revelation so surprising was not because she exposed some dark secret. It was because she showed the world a version of Dale Jr. that almost nobody had ever seen before. The strong and fearless racing legend was also a man who struggled to open up emotionally, a man who sometimes shut down during difficult conversations, a man who carried deep fears, silent pressure, and emotional scars that followed him for years. Fans who once believed Dale Jr. lived a perfect life suddenly began seeing how complicated things really were behind closed doors. As Amy became more comfortable speaking publicly through interviews, podcasts, and family conversations online, people started noticing something unusual. She was not trying to embarrass her husband. Instead, she was slowly pulling back the curtain on the emotional reality of loving someone who had spent most of his life hiding pain from the world. The more she talked, the more fans realized that Dale Jr.'s biggest battles were never only happening on the racetrack. Some of the hardest moments were happening quietly at home, inside conversations that nobody else could hear. Amy entered Dale Jr.'s life at a time when he was already carrying enormous pressure. He was not just another NASCAR driver. He was the son of Dale Earnhardt Sr., one of the most legendary figures in racing history. After his father's tragic passing in 2001, millions of fans looked at Dale Jr. as the man responsible for continuing the Earnhardt name. Every race came with expectation. Every mistake became national news. Every decision was judged. Over time, that pressure changed him in ways many people never understood. Amy reportedly noticed early on that Dale Jr. had difficulty expressing emotions directly. Instead of speaking openly during stressful moments, he often pulled away or became quiet. Small disagreements could suddenly become long periods of silence. From the outside, fans saw a relaxed celebrity with endless success. But inside the relationship, Amy was learning that fame does not protect people from emotional struggles. In some ways, it makes those struggles even worse. What stunned many fans most was hearing how close the relationship reportedly came to serious trouble before things improved. Amy wanted emotional clarity and stability. She wanted honesty, communication, and commitment. But Dale Jr. was still learning how to fully trust another person with his emotions. Years of pressure, grief, and public attention had made vulnerability difficult for him. Instead of talking through problems naturally, he sometimes avoided them altogether. As their relationship continued, tension quietly built between them. Amy later helped fans understand that some of their hardest moments were not dramatic, screaming fights. Sometimes the hardest part was emotional distance. Two people could sit in the same room, yet feel completely disconnected. That hidden silence slowly became one of the biggest challenges in their relationship. Then came the turning point that changed everything. Instead of walking away from each other, they reportedly decided to face the problem directly through therapy. For many NASCAR fans, this was one of the most unexpected things they had ever heard from Dale Jr. Public figures, especially famous athletes, rarely speak openly about relationship counseling. But Dale Jr. eventually admitted that therapy helped save their relationship and changed the way he understood communication, marriage, and emotional connection. That revelation alone completely changed how many people viewed him. Suddenly, Dale Jr. no longer looked like an untouchable racing icon. He looked human. He looked like a man trying to repair broken communication patterns while learning how to become a better partner. Amy's honesty exposed a softer and more vulnerable side of him that fans had never witnessed before. But the deeper Amy spoke about life behind the scenes, the more people realized that fame itself had become another challenge in their marriage. Amy never originally planned to live under a microscope. She was not chasing celebrity attention when she met Dale Jr. Yet overnight, she became part of one of the most famous families in NASCAR. Fans analyzed her every move. Online rumors spread constantly. Some people even blamed her for major decisions in Dale Jr.'s career and personal life. The pressure became exhausting. Instead of enjoying a normal relationship, Amy found herself living inside a world where strangers felt emotionally connected to her husband and believed they had the right to judge their marriage. That kind of attention can slowly damage even strong relationships. And for a long time, many fans never understood how difficult that experience truly was for her. But perhaps the most interesting part of this entire story is how Amy's honesty slowly transformed Dale Jr.'s image forever. Before, people mostly saw him as the quiet racing superstar carrying his father's legacy. After Amy began revealing more about their private struggles and emotional growth, fans started seeing a completely different man. They saw someone learning how to communicate, someone learning how to love openly, someone trying to heal emotionally after years of carrying silent pressure. They were finally seeing Dale Earnhardt Jr., the husband, the partner, and the deeply human man behind the helmet. But Amy's most emotional revelation was still ahead, because the terrifying moment that nearly changed their family forever would soon force both of them to see life in a completely different way. The side of Dale Jr. fans never saw Amy Reimann. Never imagined that loving Dale Earnhardt Jr. would place her under one of the brightest spotlights in American sports. Before meeting him, she lived a far quieter life, focused on work, creativity, and building her own career. She was known as a talented interior designer with a calm personality and a private lifestyle. Fame was never part of the plan. She did not grow up dreaming about red carpets, endless cameras, or millions of strangers discussing her relationship online. But the moment she became connected to Dale Jr., everything around her changed almost overnight. Their story reportedly began when Amy worked on redesigning Dale Jr.'s home in North Carolina. At first, it looked like a normal professional connection, but as they spent more time together, a deeper bond slowly formed between them. Dale Jr. was drawn to Amy's calm nature and grounded personality. Unlike many people around him, she did not seem impressed by fame or racing success. She treated him like a regular person instead of a NASCAR icon. For a man who had spent most of his life being viewed as a celebrity first, that kind of connection felt rare and comforting. Still, building a relationship with Dale Jr. came with hidden complications that Amy could not fully understand in the beginning. Loving someone famous is already difficult, but loving someone carrying one of the biggest names in NASCAR history created a completely different level of pressure. Everywhere Dale Jr. went, attention followed him. Fans watched every move. Reporters searched for stories constantly. Even small moments could suddenly become public discussions online. At first, Amy reportedly tried to stay out of the spotlight as much as possible. Unlike many celebrity partners who embrace fame quickly, she seemed uncomfortable with public attention. She rarely shared personal details and preferred privacy over publicity. But as Dale Jr.'s popularity continued growing, avoiding attention became almost impossible. Fans became deeply curious about the woman beside NASCAR's biggest star. Some supported the relationship warmly, while others unfairly criticized her without even knowing her personally. Over time, Amy reportedly learned how intense sports fandom could become. Many fans felt emotionally protective of Dale Jr. because they had watched him grow up in front of the world after his father's death. Some people treated his personal life almost like public property. That pressure became even heavier whenever Dale Jr. made important career decisions. If he struggled during races, some critics blamed Amy. If he missed time or discussed retirement, rumors quickly spread online. Certain fans even suggested she was influencing his choices behind the scenes. For Amy, this was one of the hardest parts of entering Dale Jr.'s world. She was suddenly being judged by millions of strangers for decisions that were never hers to make. What made the situation painful was that Amy reportedly never wanted control over Dale Jr.'s career. She simply wanted a healthy relationship and a peaceful family life. But in the public eye, reality often becomes twisted. The louder Dale Jr.'s fame grew, the harder it became for Amy to separate herself from public opinion. Dale Jr. eventually noticed the emotional weight this placed on her. Over time, he became more vocal about defending Amy publicly. He reportedly made it clear that she was not responsible for his racing decisions, retirement thoughts, or personal struggles. That support became important because it showed a major shift in Dale Jr. himself. Earlier in life, he often struggled to communicate difficult emotions directly, but now he was beginning to protect his relationship openly instead of staying silent. As fans watched them together more often through interviews, social media clips, and later podcasts, another surprising detail started becoming clear. Amy was far stronger and more outspoken than many people expected. She was not simply standing quietly beside a celebrity husband. She had her own opinions, her own humor, and her own emotional honesty. Sometimes she teased Dale Jr. openly. Sometimes she challenged him during conversations. Other times, she revealed small personal habits and stories that made fans laugh because they sounded so normal and relatable. That honesty slowly changed public perception of their marriage. Instead of looking like a polished celebrity couple pretending life was perfect, they began looking like two real people learning how to navigate pressure together. Fans started hearing playful disagreements, awkward moments, emotional conversations, and funny misunderstandings. The relationship suddenly felt human instead of carefully managed for cameras. But behind those lighter moments, Amy was also helping reveal something much deeper about Dale Jr. himself. Fame had affected him more than many people realized. Years of carrying expectations had made emotional openness difficult. Sometimes he protected himself by becoming distant. Sometimes he avoided difficult conversations because he feared conflict or disappointment. Amy reportedly helped him recognize those patterns little by little. What makes their story fascinating is that Amy did not expose Dale Jr. through scandal or betrayal. She exposed the emotional cost of fame itself. She showed how success can hide loneliness, how public admiration can exist beside private insecurity, and how even one of NASCAR's most beloved figures could struggle with fear, pressure, and emotional communication. For many fans, this became one of the most unexpected parts of Dale Jr.'s transformation. The tough racing legend who once seemed emotionally untouchable was slowly becoming more open, softer, and more vulnerable in front of the public. And much of that change appeared connected to Amy's influence in his life. But even after surviving criticism, relationship struggles, and the exhausting pressure of fame, nothing could prepare them for the terrifying moment that would suddenly place their entire family in danger and force them to confront how fragile life truly is. Amy's honest confession about fame. By the time Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Amy Reimann finally looked stable and happy in public, many people believed the hardest days were already behind them. They had survived relationship struggles, public criticism, emotional distance, and the pressure that came with living under constant attention. Together, they appeared stronger, calmer, and more connected than ever before. but life was about to test them in a way neither of them could have imagined. In August 2019, everything changed within seconds. Dale Jr., Amy, their young daughter, and several others boarded a private plane for what should have been a normal trip. Nothing about that day seemed unusual in the beginning. It looked like another routine flight in the busy life of a famous family constantly traveling between work, appearances, and personal responsibilities. But during landing in Tennessee, disaster suddenly struck. The plane reportedly bounced hard on the runway, failed to stop properly, and crashed through a fence before catching fire. In a terrifying moment, the aircraft became surrounded by smoke and flames. News spread across the country almost immediately. Fans watching the reports feared the worst. For many NASCAR supporters, the situation felt painfully familiar because Dale Jr.'s family had already lived through heartbreaking tragedy before. The Earnhardt name had long been connected to danger, loss, and survival in the world of racing. Inside the chaos of the crash, survival became the only thing that mattered. Thankfully, everyone on board escaped alive. Reports later confirmed that Dale Jr., Amy, their daughter, and the other passengers survived without life-threatening injuries. But surviving physically was only part of the story. Emotionally, the experience left a deep impact on the family. For Amy especially, the crash reportedly changed how she viewed life completely. One ordinary day had almost turned into a devastating tragedy. The terrifying reality of nearly losing everything forced the family to slow down and rethink what truly mattered. Fame, schedules, racing conversations, and public expectations suddenly felt far less important compared to the simple gift of being alive together. Fans noticed a shift in Dale Jr. after the accident as well. Even before the crash, retirement had already pushed him toward a quieter, family-centered lifestyle. But surviving such a frightening moment seemed to deepen his emotional transformation. He appeared more reflective, more grateful, and even more protective of the people closest to him. Amy also became more open about the emotional side of family life after the crash. Raising children while living under public attention was already stressful enough, but surviving a near-death experience added another layer of fear that few people could truly understand. Suddenly, normal parenting worries became much more intense. Every goodbye, every trip, and every moment apart carried a different emotional weight afterward. What made the story even more emotional for many fans was seeing how united Dale Jr. and Amy appeared during the recovery process. Earlier in their relationship, emotional communication had reportedly been one of their biggest struggles. Years before, silence and distance often created tension between them. But now, after facing genuine danger together, their connection seemed stronger and more open than ever before. The crash also changed the way many fans viewed Amy. For years, some critics unfairly blamed her for changes in Dale Jr.'s career and personal life. But after the accident, people began focusing less on rumors and more on the reality of what this family had survived together. Amy no longer looked like the outsider some fans once questioned. She looked like the woman standing beside Dale Jr. through one of the most frightening experiences of their lives. As time passed, Dale Jr. slowly became more comfortable discussing emotional topics publicly. He began speaking more openly about fear, mental pressure, family priorities, and personal growth. Many longtime fans noticed that he no longer carried himself like the emotionally guarded young driver from earlier years. Fatherhood, marriage, therapy, retirement, and now the plane crash had all slowly reshaped him into someone more emotionally transparent. At the center of that transformation stood Amy. Without trying to, she had helped reveal layers of Dale Jr.'s personality that the public had never fully seen before. Not the fearless racer, not the famous son of a NASCAR legend, but the husband was worried about his family. The father who valued time at home. The man who finally learned that strength was not only about staying tough in public, but also about being emotionally honest with the people he loved most. And strangely, That honesty only made fans feel even closer to him. But while the plane crash became one of the most dramatic moments in their lives, another surprising chapter was quietly unfolding behind the scenes. Because once Dale Jr. and Amy started speaking together more openly in podcasts and public conversations, fans suddenly discovered a completely different side of their marriage that nobody expected to see. The marriage problem they nearly couldn't survive. After the plane crash, many fans expected Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Amy Reimann to become even more private. Most people assumed they would quietly focus on family life and stay away from revealing personal details. But something surprising happened instead. Little by little, the couple began allowing the public to see more of their real personalities together. And the more people watched them interact, the more stunned they became. For years, fans mostly saw Dale Jr. as calm, quiet, and careful with his words. During his racing career, he often appeared reserved in interviews, especially when conversations became emotional or personal. He rarely revealed too much about his private life. Because of that, many people assumed his marriage worked the same way behind closed doors, serious, controlled, and carefully protected from public view. But once Amy and Dale Jr. started sharing conversations together publicly, a completely different image began to emerge. Fans suddenly saw a playful side of their relationship that felt natural and unfiltered. Amy teased him often. She joked about his habits, challenged his opinions, and sometimes exposed funny little details about life at home that viewers never expected to hear. Dale Jr., instead of looking annoyed, often laughed along with her. The chemistry between them felt relaxed, awkward in a charming way, and incredibly real. For many viewers, this became one of the biggest surprises of all. Amy's personality stood out immediately. She was confident, honest, quick-witted, and unafraid to speak directly. Instead of acting intimidated by Dale Jr.'s fame, she interacted with him like a normal husband at home. Sometimes she corrected him mid-conversation. Sometimes she brought up embarrassing stories. Other times, she pointed out small things about his behavior that made fans laugh because they sounded so relatable. And in those moments, people started seeing Dale Jr. differently too. The legendary NASCAR driver suddenly looked less like a distant sports icon and more like an ordinary husband navigating marriage, parenting, and everyday life. Fans heard him laugh nervously, defend himself jokingly, and admit small personal flaws that he probably would have hidden years earlier. The emotional walls he once kept around himself no longer seemed as strong. What made these conversations so powerful was their honesty. They did not sound like rehearsed celebrity interviews carefully designed to protect an image. They sounded like two real people who had already survived enough together that they no longer felt the need to pretend perfection existed. Amy especially played a huge role in creating that atmosphere. Her openness naturally pulled Dale Jr. out of his shell. Whenever conversations became emotional, funny, or uncomfortable, she did not immediately avoid them. Instead, she leaned into the moment, which often encouraged Dale Jr. to do the same. Over time, fans realized that Amy had quietly become one of the few people capable of making Dale Jr. fully relax in public. That shift fascinated longtime NASCAR supporters because it showed how much he had emotionally changed over the years. Earlier in life, Dale Jr. often protected himself by staying guarded. Growing up under the Earnhardt name placed enormous emotional pressure on him from a very young age. After losing his father so publicly and tragically, he became even more careful about vulnerability. Fame taught him how to hide pain instead of expressing it openly. But marriage, fatherhood, therapy, and life experience slowly softened those defenses, and Amy became part of that transformation. As fans continued listening to their conversations, another interesting detail became impossible to ignore. Amy was not simply exposing funny stories about Dale Jr.'s habits or personality quirks. She was also revealing how deeply emotional he actually was beneath the surface. Underneath the calm public image was a man who cared intensely about family, loyalty, relationships, and emotional connection. In many ways, Amy helped translate Dale Jr. to the world. Before her, many fans misunderstood his silence. Some assumed quietness meant confidence or emotional control, but Amy's stories painted a more complicated picture. Sometimes his silence came from overthinking. Sometimes it came from fear of conflict. Sometimes it comes from years of carrying emotional pressure without knowing how to release it properly. The public reaction slowly shifted too. Earlier in the relationship, Amy faced criticism from people who unfairly judged her role in Dale Jr.'s life. But after hearing her personality and seeing the way the couple interacted naturally together, many viewers changed their opinions completely. They began understanding why Dale Jr. trusted her so deeply. She brought balance into his life. She challenged him emotionally, while also making him feel grounded away from fame. And perhaps most importantly, she helped reveal the version of Dale Jr. that racing alone never could. Not the fearless driver speeding around dangerous tracks, not the celebrity carrying a legendary last name, but the husband who laughed at awkward jokes, worried about family life, struggled with emotional communication, and slowly learned how to become more open with the world. Yet even after all these revelations, one final truth still remained hidden beneath the surface. Because the deeper fans looked into Dale Jr.'s emotional transformation, the more they realized it was connected to something much older and far more painful than fame itself. The emotional transformation that changed Dale Jr. forever. After surviving years of pressure, relationship struggles, public criticism, and even a terrifying plane crash, something about Dale Earnhardt Jr. slowly began to change in a way longtime fans could not ignore. The man people once viewed as emotionally guarded was becoming far more open, relaxed, and vulnerable in public. And surprisingly, much of that transformation became visible through the honest and sometimes playful conversations he shared with Amy Reimann. For most of his racing career, Dale Jr. carried himself carefully. Fans loved him because he appeared calm, respectful, and strong under pressure. But there was always a certain emotional distance around him. He rarely revealed too much about his private thoughts, fears, or struggles. Growing up as the son of Dale Earnhardt Sr. meant living under enormous expectations from childhood. Millions of NASCAR fans watched his every move, constantly comparing him to his legendary father. After his father's tragic death in 2001, that pressure became even heavier. Instead of fully processing his grief publicly, Dale Jr. reportedly learned to keep many emotions hidden deep inside. Racing became both his career and his escape. On the outside, he looked confident and successful, but internally, years of emotional pressure quietly followed him everywhere. Amy eventually helped fans understand that side of him more clearly. As the couple began speaking more openly together in podcasts, interviews, and family conversations online, viewers suddenly saw a completely different version of Dale Jr. Amy teased him naturally, challenged him during conversations, and shared small personal stories that made their relationship feel real instead of carefully scripted. Sometimes their conversations became funny and awkward. Other times they became surprisingly emotional. But what stood out most was how comfortable Dale Jr. slowly became around her. Fans who had followed him for decades noticed the difference immediately. Earlier in life, Dale Jr. often shut down emotionally during difficult moments. Silence became one of his ways of protecting himself. Amy reportedly revealed that communication was one of their biggest struggles early in the relationship because he sometimes avoided emotional conversations instead of facing them directly. Years of pressure had made vulnerability difficult for him, but over time, that began to change. Therapy reportedly played a major role in helping the couple understand each other better. Instead of continuing unhealthy communication patterns, they started learning how to express frustrations, fears, and emotions more openly. For many fans, hearing Dale Jr. admit that counseling helped save their relationship was deeply surprising. Famous athletes rarely speak honestly about emotional struggles or relationship therapy, but Dale Jr.'s willingness to discuss it showed how much personal growth had already taken place behind the scenes. Amy's influence seemed to soften parts of him that fame had hardened over the years. The more they interacted publicly together, the more viewers realized that Dale Jr. was not emotionally cold at all. In reality, he appeared deeply sensitive beneath the surface. He cared intensely about loyalty, family, trust, and emotional connection. Amy's openness simply helped bring those hidden layers into the light. Fatherhood also changed him in powerful ways. After welcoming children into their lives, Dale Jr. appeared far more focused on peace, family time, and emotional stability than public image or racing success. Fans began seeing a calmer and happier version of him outside the competitive NASCAR environment. The emotional walls he once relied on no longer seemed as necessary. Then came the plane crash in 2019, a moment that reportedly reshaped the family even further. Surviving such a terrifying experience forced both Dale Jr. and Amy to reevaluate what truly mattered most in life. Fame suddenly looked less important compared to simply being alive together. The experience appeared to deepen Dale Jr.'s gratitude for family and strengthened the emotional bond between them even more. Many fans noticed that after the crash, he seemed even more reflective, emotional, and open than before. What makes this transformation so fascinating is that Amy never exposed Dale Jr. through scandal or betrayal. She exposed something far more powerful: his humanity. She revealed the emotional cost of carrying a famous last name. She showed how grief, pressure, fame, and fear shaped him quietly for years behind the scenes. She helped people understand that even one of NASCAR's biggest legends struggled with emotional communication, insecurity, and vulnerability like anyone else. And strangely, instead of damaging his image, those revelations made fans respect him even more. Because people no longer saw only the fearless driver wearing the Earnhardt name. They saw the husband trying to improve himself. The father is learning how to protect his peace. The man slowly healed from years of emotional pressure he carried silently for most of his life. However, Amy Reimann did not destroy Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s image by exposing him for everything. She made the world finally understand him. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.